Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I'm working on the Simply Winter Junk Journal using the digital kit from Calico Collage. Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I'm sharing with you how to make a cover for a junk journal. I'm using the Calico Collage digital image Simply Winter. That's the kit that I used for the inside and a piece for the cover. And I've got some fabric here, and I'm going to show you how I put the cover together. I have a lot of people that ask questions about how do you get there. Well, when I make a junk journal, I generally make my insides first. So I will get all of my pages put together. I'll add the embellishments on there. I'll add lace. And then I know once I'm done what size cover I need to make. Occasionally I will use an old book, and that will become my cover, and then that will determine what size my pages are that go in it. So looking at this stack of papers that I have here, we need to measure it to determine what size to make the cover. So the cover, I've got a ruler in inches here. If I take into consideration the lace and everything, so I'm trying to stack these all up pretty even, and I come out here, it's right at 6 1/4 inches with this one piece of lace that sticks out. So we've got 6 1/4, right? 6 1/4, and then this is 8 inches, maybe 8 1/4, 8 inches tall. So I need to make my cover just slightly larger. And then looking at the thickness of the journal, when you squish the pages together, I want to say roughly, if I put this at 1 1/4 inches, that would be a good width for the spine. Now I have a plethora of chipboard because of a place I used to work. This was paper or chipboard that they were throwing away, so I asked them to save it for me. You can purchase chipboard, you can use an old cereal box. There's lots of ways to get your own chipboard. So what I'm going to do is I want the width of my journal. I said 6 1/4 gets us just to the edge of the lace, so let's go 6 1/2. And if I we'll lay the page that has the most lace sticking out under my guide here, it looks like that if I do, a little over, let's do 6 3, not quite 6 1/2. So what I'll do is I will cut 2 pieces this size. These are going to be my front and back covers. Now I need to determine the height as well as get a piece for the spine. And since I've already got my cutter set this way, I'm just going to go ahead and line up at the 1 1/2 inch mark, because that's how wide I want my spine. And I want the height of this book to be 8 1/4, so that gives me a little bit of clearance on each side. So if I kind of slip this under here, I may want to go a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and go out to 6 1/2. So that gives me some room at the top and the bottom in case we have, embellishments that we want to stick out later. I will cut the 2 pieces for the cover that I already have at that height. And I'll cut the next one. And then I will cut the spine at that height. So I have 3 pieces ready for the cover of the inside of my junk journal cover. So I'm just going to basically sandwich this, kind of test it. It looks like that if I put this on here, that will protect my pages quite nicely. I have some ribbon sticking out, so that'll be kind of cute. So there is the pieces to get started for my journal. Now I need to make a template, so I'll have that ready. And since I know that my journal is... How does I do that? We'll just wait. For my journal, I'm going to cover it with fabric. So what I'll do next is I will lay out the fabric. So I'm just going to open this up here. And what I will do is I'm going to fold this in half because I don't have a whole lot of room here to cut. As I'll line this up, I've got a cutting mat here on my desk, so I can just use it. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to end up wrapping this chipboard. But I want to make sure that I have the right height for the chipboard. So I leave about 1 inch on each side. And I have a ruler here, so I'm just going to go right about 1 inch on either side. And I'm just using a rotary blade to cut this. You can use scissors. So I have the right height. Now what I'll do is I'll lay out my pieces with the spine so I can figure out how long to make this piece. So I'm just going to go on the other side over here and about 1 inch past the cover. I'm going to trim this. Just getting it straight on my mat. So now I have the outside pieces cut for this out of the fabric, and then I'll save this piece here for another journal. While I've got this fabric out, I'm going to go ahead and cut it into some strips because I think I want to use this as a pocket. So what you're looking at now is the chipboard laid on top of the fabric, and I'm just adjusting the margins, if you will, around the edges and placing these chipboard down. I'm going to make a little bit of a gap between this cover and the spine so that when you open and close the journal, there'll be plenty of room for it to move. You don't need a huge gap, just a slight amount, probably about the thickness of your journal. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to adhere this to the fabric. I'm also going to make sure I've got it straight. And I'm going to put a generous amount of tacky glue on here. I'm going to go all the way around the perimeter of this piece of chipboard and then make like a zigzag down the middle. And I'm just rubbing this down to make sure it's adhering to the fabric. I'm going to do the same on the covers, go around the perimeter, and then put a nice generous amount down the center. This does dry clear, so if you look at the other side of this fabric, you may see some glue marks while it's still wet, but when it is dry, you won't see those. So that's adhered, and if you lift up the sides, it doesn't seem to buckle here, so we're doing good as far as getting this going. The next thing I'm going to do is start to fold this in to cover the chipboard. What I like to do is just make a little triangle in each corner and adhere these down by folding it in. It dries pretty quick. I mean, it gives me time to move it if it's not straight or something, but for the most part I like the way it looks. And then the next thing I'll do is just go down the tops and sides and glue those into place. I'll use my bone folder to help smooth and get all that glue squished out in the fabric. There's what it looks like before we put the insides in, as well as inside covers. So the next portion is to get in here and add covers to the inside. And it looks like I will want to trim this down just a little bit. So I'll get out my paper cutter and trim these into panels. So I want the inside panel to be about 8 1/4 inches. So I'm going to trim this whole piece to 8 1/4 inches. And I'm going to do the same on the second piece because this isn't quite big enough to get 2 out of 1. And then this particular piece, I want to be, I need to move this out of the way, about 6 1/4 as well. So I'll just test this to see if I've done okay. It looks like it's going to go right to the edge. It probably should be less than 6 1/4 so that this can bend. So I'm going to trim just a little bit off. And I'm going to measure this to be the same size. So I'm just going to use the first piece and lay it on here and use that as a guide. So this piece will go here, and this piece will go here. But I need to cover in the center. And what I like to do is to have a wider piece than the actual spine. So probably about 3 1/2 inches will be good. Since I have this piece already cut to the right height, I'm just going to slide it over and trim it down to 3 1/2 inches. So here are the pieces that are going to go inside the journal, but I want to do more by adding a piece of fabric to these pieces to become pockets. So I'm just looking at this to see the best way to do it. This one's not cut straight, so I'm going to trim this up to be straight. So these are going to be the pieces that are going to go on my covers to become pockets. So what I want to do next is I want to give a little distressing on the edges of this. So I'm going to use Stormy Sky and a blending tool and go around the edges. I'm going to do the spine, but only the tops and the bottoms because these side panels you're not going to see. To help hold this in place for a few minutes, because I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, I'm just trimming off the excess, and I'm going to use some glue stick on the sides, and this will help hold that fabric in place while I'm sewing. I have my vintage sewing machine here. I have a blue thread in the top and a white in the bottom. I have it set on a zigzag stitch. What I'm going to do is sew all the way around the perimeter of this inside page. That will help close the bottom up and then secure the fabric in place. When I get to the edge, I'll leave my needle down and raise the presser foot and turn the paper and start sewing again. The needle I'm using is just an 80-12 standard sewing machine needle. Look to your machine's user manual to determine what would be the best one for you. I'm going to do the next piece the same way. This is the center spine. I'm going to sew across the top and the bottom and leave the sides blank. I've got my cover, my chipboard. The glue is somewhat dry. It may be a little tacky, but it's not going to cause too much of a problem because it's dry enough for me. You may want to let it dry longer. And what I'm going to do is zigzag stitch all the way around the perimeter of the cover. So it has been zigzag stitched all the way around. And what I want to do is I want to add my embellishment to the cover. I've got a piece of music out of a old hymnal. And so I'm just going to place it on here and try to determine what I want to do. And I think what I need to do is I'm going to trim this just a little bit to fit a little better on the front of my cover. I may even change it to another piece of music. I was going to say that I tore the pages or took apart a book, and you can see where it was stitched through here. And this is what I thought was interesting because we've been talking about why is it called a signature. And the reason why it's called a signature is they used to sign what the book was or who the author was or maybe even the bookbinder in the signature. Get it? The pieces of the signature. And I just thought it was funny that when I cut this apart, this had it right here. I ended up choosing a different piece of music to go on the cover. So I'm just positioning that. I think that fits better than the other piece that I had. I also have an image from Calico Collage that I want to put on the cover. So I think what I want to do first is I want to sew this piece to the music. So I'm just going to look to see how I want to place that. And I think if I place it on here like this, it'll look good. So I'm going to stitch on the outside edge. No, I'm not. I'm just going to glue it in place. So I'm just using Aleene's tacky glue, and I'm going to glue this on top of the music. So I've got this laid on top of my cover, and I have a little piece of trim here I want to try to add at the same time that I'm sewing this cover embellishment. I have a piece of lace that I want to sew on here, so I'm going to put that kind of at a diagonal across the bottom here. So there's the beginnings of my cover embellishment. I think I'm done with the sewing machine portion, so I'm going to change cameras. I've got my cover laying here, and I want to add some more embellishments to it. I have some just pretty, kind of a faux leather look, and I'm going to use some glue and attach that to the cover here. I'm just going to go right around the edges. And then I have these mini cupcake or little food papers, if you will. And I took one of them and I just kind of opened it and then folded it in half. And I think that will look cute down here in the corner. And then I have a die cut that I punched and a circle. And I think I want to add a little bit of color to this circle. So I'm using the Stormy Sky Distressed ink and going around the edge here. I'm going to lay that here. And then I've got this little Let It Snow. And I think what I'm going to do is layer these up in using the Aleene's tacky glue again. So I'm going to open this up and add glue on the inside so that it will be nice and stable. And then I'll add some glue on the outside. Then I have a little snowflake that I punched out of some white cardstock. I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the edges just to give it a little more color and dimension. I'm going to use a glue stick and just press it onto the top of that, kind of mush it around until it all gets covered on the back side. Place that right here in the center. Then I've got some tulip glitter glue, and I'm going to go in here and just add a little bit of this on top. I'm also going to add some to the bird in a couple of places. I have this little Let It Snow. It's a sticker, but it's not very sticky. It keeps popping off of the holder. So I'm going to use some Aleene's tacky glue and glue this into place and then let this all dry, and I'll come back. The tulip dimensional fabric paint, that's what I use for my glitter on here, has dried, so I can continue on. I also added some little stickers that I had that are snowflakes that I thought were kind of neat and swirly. The next thing we need to do is I want to make a template that I'm going to use for punching holes. The holes will be for the signatures and also for my closure. So here's what I've done. I've got a piece of paper that is the same height and width of my spine. And the next thing that I'm going to do is find the center point, and I'll do that simply by just folding it in half, and I know that's where my center mark is. I'm also going to use this template by laying it onto my journal pages, and just so that I know where the top of the page is. So this is the top of the page, and this is the bottom of the page, and I'm going to write T-O-P right here. And then that way I know that my holes need to be in just a little bit from this so that it'll hold it in place. And what I like to do is mark my template where I need to punch holes. So I'm just going to lay this into my paper cutter because I use it as my measuring device. And the center of a 1.5 is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to line this up on the 3/4 of an inch mark, and that'll be the dead center. I'll use my stylus tool to score that so I know where the center is. I'll fold it up just a little bit. And then about 1/4 of an inch away from that, I need to score this. So what I'll do is I'll put it on here right about the 1 inch mark. Actually, I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to do 1 1/8. So I want them to be a little bit further apart. And I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. So if I take a pencil and there's a mark. There's a mark. There's a mark. So now what I need to do is put a marking where I'm going to put the holes, and I like to go about 1.5 inches from the top. So I'm just going to take my pencil and make a mark all the way across. I'm going to flip it around and go to the 1.5 inch mark again and mark that. So now we haven't marked this one, but we know that's the center. So now I have my little template made. I've got a little piece of fun foam here, and I've got the Tim Holtz pick tool, which is an adjustable awl in it. And what I'm going to do next is we're going to poke holes where these intersect. So there's going to be 3 holes at the top. So 1, 2, and 3. There's going to be 3 holes in the center. 1, 2, 3, and 3 holes down here at the bottom. 1, 2, and 3. And I'll close this up for a moment. What I'll do is I'll fold this up. And this is going to be 2 templates in one. It's going to mark where I need to punch holes in the spine of my journal. And it's also going to be used to punch holes in my signatures. Now I did all of that so that I could have this template that I will lay on the side here. And I'm going to use my hole punch and line it up and punch a hole and make sure, nope, I didn't want that size. I'm glad I looked again because I didn't want that big of a hole, and I think I want it further away. Yes. So I've got my crocodile on the 1/4 of an inch punch. No, I think it's 1/8. So I'm just going to line this up, and it's going to punch all the way through. There may be a little bit of fiber, but not much. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back of this journal cover. So now I have a hole in the front and the back, and I'm going to trim this little thread. And I have these little hangers. They're a part of a hardware kit that I have. And I've got a snowflake shaped brad. So I'm going to poke that through this hanger. And then onto the journal cover. And I'll flip it around to the back and open up the legs of the brad. Like so. And then when I go to put the inside cover on, that will cover that up and keep it from coming undone. But isn't that cute with the little snowflake? I'm going to do it again to the other side. Now I've made kits of this journal. So in the kit you would get the hardware and the brad. You'll get the fabric. You'll have to sew it if you want it sewn. You have to use your own glue, but you'll have all the pieces that you can then make your own journal. Okay, so now those are on there. They're kind of cute. I like them. I like them a lot. All right, so now we're going to flip this around, and we have our pieces that need to be adhered to the journal. And I'm going to begin by adhering the spine portion. So I've got the spine portion here, and I'm going to put a liberal amount of glue on it so that it will be sturdy. You can use fabric or bookbinder's tape. Since I'm making it from scratch, I'm just going ahead and using cardstock and things I have here. So I'm going to put some glue in the right in the corners of that paper where they meet. I'm going to line this up and try to get it as straight as possible. In the center of the book, I'm going to use my bone folder to press. I'm not going to worry about the glue that may press out. It's okay. That's just telling me it's really getting adhered. And then I need to find where the break is. So I'm scoring where the two pieces come together, and then I'm going to flatten this back out again. And then I'm not going to bend this cover until it's dry, otherwise this will come loose. I'll do the same on the other side. Now I'm going to put the side panels on. Glue all the way around the outside, again using the Aleene's. And then a zigzag down the middle. I had to make sure I had the journal right side up because I have glued my inside pockets and pages on upside down. It's always good to check. This will take just a little bit to dry. I could go ahead and now take my template, and I'm going to place some fun foam behind my book cover. I'm going to lay my template in the valley here where the spine is, lining it up with the score marks on either side. And then I'm going to punch all these little holes. So that should be 9 holes in total that I'll punch through the spine. So if necessary, you can punch deeper through that to make sure your needle's going to go through and that you can see it on the other side. I'm going to set this aside to dry. So I've got my pages here, and I've got some jumbo paper clips to help keep the pages together. And what I'll do is I'll go through these and make sure that all the papers are in the center or closer to where they can be attached with the stitches in the book. So if we look at our template, we're going to have holes just above and below this, so I could move this up to the top, and then it will be caught in 2 of the holes. Once I have all the pages centered, I take a large paper clip and bind all of these together so they don't shift, and I can punch the holes into them. You're probably wondering what you're looking at, and this is my book binder's cradle. You don't have to have a book binder's cradle. You can open up like an old phone book so that you can get into the center of it. I'm using this because I have one. My husband made it for me, and it seems to work pretty good for me. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my template and I'm lining it up in my book cover pieces, and where I have these little marks, I know that's where my pages need to line up on my template, so I have consistent placement of my holes. And I'm going to use my Tonic Studios Tim Holtz picker tool to punch the holes, and I'm going to go all the way through all the layers. So that now has 3 holes in it. I'm going to do that on the other 2 signatures as well. Using a cradle or a tool to help keep your pages stacked neatly is better when you're punching holes, otherwise everything shifts and you don't get it dead in the center of the pieces of paper in the fold area. So this is where I look at my signatures and I decide which one do I want in the front and which one do I want in the middle. And I think I want this in my front, this will be in the rear, and this will be in the middle. So what I'll do is I'll take my wax linen thread. I like to use it because it's smoother in going through the holes and it's really strong. And I will measure 3 times the height of my journal pages and cut that. And I'm going to do extra since I have 3 signatures to do. So what I do is go through the center of the journal, in the center hole, out to the outside. You're going to pull this up, but you don't want to pull it too short so that you have a tail. I'm going to go from the outside in the center hole. Oh, that's not the center hole. That's the center hole. And then back through your pages. I like to hang on to that tail so it doesn't pull all the way through the cover of the book. Now you're going to go back through that center hole on the center of the spine. We're on the outside again. We go to the center hole on the bottom and through the pages, back to the inside of the journal. And then I like to pull the threads and slip underneath that top thread there. I hope I go the right way. And then take these two end pieces and tie a square knot. So that's one, and then tie a second square knot. I have these little snowflakes. Are supposed to be self-adhesive. We'll see how good they are. And if I take one and then another and line these up. Isn't that cute? I'm glad I picked those up. I'll remove the paper clips because they're not needed anymore. I gotta remember where this journal, oh, here it was. And then I'll pick up the next signature and we'll repeat the same process, going from the inside to the outside of the spine and tying this to the book cover. So I've done the top hole, now I'm going back to the center, the outside, under the top thread. I like to pull them in opposite directions and tighten that up, and then tie 2 square knots. For the closure, I've decided I want to use some ribbon that I had in my stash, so I'm just going to take this ribbon, I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to poke it through the little hardware here into a slip knot. I'll do the same on the back. And then this can tie the journal closed, like so. So let's do a flip through of this video. It has 3 signatures. Each signature has 6 pieces of paper or an envelope in it. We already went over the cover, but I will reiterate again that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 in size, and has a 1.5 inch spine with some really pretty glittered fabric on here. In the inside cover is a journaling card. Basically, it was the companion to the one on the cover, and I just stuck it inside. Now, when I'm showing you this, I have made 3 kits. Each kit is going to have a different image here, but each one will have the lace already sewn on it, and then there's all the pieces so you can put it together. In fact, there's over 90 pieces in the kit that you can use to make your own journal. I will include the fabric. They'll have all of these embellishments that were on the front minus the sewing machine, because you'll have to use your own, the glue, and then like the tulip glitter fabric paint that I used here. But the brads and the punched images and stickers, those will all be in the kit. So we've got Calico Collage Simply Winter here. Then this is some letterhead paper that's in the kit as well. You'll have one just the same size. Here is an envelope that I made. Because it's been sewn, it will already be put together. You'll have to add the washi tape to add it to the page. Inside of here is a journal card that's all ready to go. There'll be different journal cards in each of the kits. The journal card here with the belly band. This is a rubber stamp, and I've added it in here. This is one of the images out of the Victorian Christmas charm pack. They're 1-inch squares, and they're perfect for making embellishments. Here is an envelope. When you see this pattern in here, that is where I've sprayed it with Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist through a stencil, and this is a stencil that I made. So my little stencil, may be hard to see, but it has little snowflakes on it, and I just lay it on there and spray, and then I've shown some techniques in other videos. There's an embellished paper clip that I made, and I used the charm again. Little index card inside here. Notebook paper. The little stickers that I put on the strings. The other side of the envelope. And again, this envelope will be included with the Tattered Angels on there. There'll be index cards as well, so you can choose to put them inside or switch it around. Scrapbook paper. Here's some washi tape. This is the other half of the dictionary page. So this piece of paper will come in the kit. You'll get the corner piece. You'll also get a journaling tag. You will have to provide the washi tape to adhere it to your page. It includes these little journaling cards as well. You just have to adhere them down onto your page. This is included as well. It's something I cut on my Cricut, and then this is a finished journaling card that will be in the kit as well. This page is complete and in the kit as well. So this is a page out of an old hymnal. We've got a journaling card. We also have a page out of an old happy planner. It's a great way to use those up if you didn't write in your happy planner. This is just a piece of paper that's been sprayed with Tattered Angels. This is graph paper. Again, all of these have been sprayed with Tattered Angels, so they're going to have that pretty shimmer. They're going to have that crinkly sound. Here's a pocket that I made that has got a doily at the bottom, and then there's a side pocket here, and then this is a textured piece of paper. I had exactly 4 of these pieces of textured paper left in my stash, so it was perfect to add to the journals. The inside of this has lace in here, and again there's another pocket here, here, and here, and the journaling card is included in the kits. This journal will be for sale in my shop. This is a text spot as well right here. Journaling card. This is an envelope I made, and I have a tutorial of a green Christmas one I made so you can see how that was done. Use all different types of lace throughout this. Here's another envelope that's been stamped and a journaling card. And then this will flip over so you can write on that full page. Another piece of that paper and another tab I made, or tuck spot. This is canvas that was sprayed with Tattered Angels and it's sewn down. Another altered paper clip. This page I made on my Cricut, the pieces down here, and I attached it to some scraps of graph paper, and I made this Cricut card as well. This got some glam on top of it by Tattered Angel, so it's got a glittery, shimmery effect. This page I used some really wide tulle from the Christmas section and folded it over after sewing a piece of ribbon on there. I've got a tutorial that's coming out for this little pocket to show you how I made that. And then we're getting to the back. Here's a pocket here, and I have a tutorial on a Christmas color, green colored one as well, so you can see how that was made. There is a tuck spot here. And then here is a journaling card. And on the back side, it has little pockets. So you can put your own little journaling card in there if you like. There's one down here as well. And then this flips out so you can write on this little mini index card any notes you may have. And then there is the last page. And I didn't adhere this down. It's just a cut that I made on my Cricut. And so I thought I'd just get in the pocket and you can choose to put that. So there is the entire journal. I hope you liked seeing that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, comment below, and of course if you haven't subscribed, already do so. Check out the description box for a link to my shop to find out about this journal and the kits that I have for sale. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Bye.